Are you struggling to SSH into localhost from within your Docker container? You're not alone. This is a common issue that many developers face, and today we're going to solve it together. I completely understand how frustrating it can be when you're trying to connect to your application and it just won't cooperate. This issue can really throw a wrench in your development process. Here's the situation. One user is building a Docker image for an application that requires SSH access to localhost. They started with a basic Ubuntu container, but when they try to SSH into localhost, they encounter an error. Sound familiar? Let's dive into this. So what could be causing this issue? The error message indicates that the connection to localhost on port 22 is failing. This could be due to network settings or SSH service not running as expected inside the container. Stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll not only know how to fix this issue, but also gain insights into Docker networking that will enhance your development skills. To resolve the issue of SSH not connecting to localhost within the Docker container, the user should first ensure that the SSH service is running inside the container. Next, the user needs to check if the SSH service is listening on the correct port. By default, SSH listens on port 22. If the SSH service is not running or not listening on port 22, the user should install and configure the SSH server properly. Finally, the user should try to SSH into localhost again. If everything is set up correctly, the connection should succeed. Fun fact, did you know that Docker containers are like mini virtual machines? They share the same kernel, but are isolated from each other. This isolation can sometimes lead to networking quirks like the one we're troubleshooting. Now, let's look at the answers provided by other users. An alternative solution provided by another user highlights that the issue arises because the SSH instance in the container is trying to connect using IPv6. They suggest forcing the connection over IPv4 by using the MASH4 option. Let's move forward and look at another answer. An alternative solution provided by another user suggests modifying your Docker setup to allow SSH access to localhost. For Docker Compose, you can add network mode host to your YAML file. If you're using Docker directly, you can achieve the same effect by running your container with the command -bash net =host. This removes network isolation between the container and the host, allowing you to use the host's networking directly. Here's a pro tip. Always check your Docker network settings when dealing with connectivity issues. Understanding how Docker manages networking can save you a lot of headaches in the future. And there you have it. With these steps, you should be able to SSH into localhost from your Docker container without any issues. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more troubleshooting tips and tricks.